My name is Kate O'Regan. I'm the director of the Bonavero Institute of Human Rights, and I'd like to welcome all of you who are joining and have joined us here for this lecture, or in fact series of discussions in memory of Professor Christof Heyns. Professor Christof Heyns, of course, died tragically about 3 years ago, and this lecture series has been hosted by the University of Pretoria in his honor every year since then. Professor Heyns was a human rights lawyer, a human rights activist, and an educator, but he was also a down-to-earth family man and a friend and colleague of many people who are attending this evening's session. Christof Heyns was the United Nations Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial summary of arbitrary executions from 2010 to 2016, and was a member of the UN Human Rights Committee from 2017 to 2020. He served as the Dean of the Faculty of Law at the University of Pretoria and as the director of its renowned Centre for Human Rights for many years. Christof also had very close links with Oxford. This lecture is taking place during the summer residential period of the Masters in International Human Rights Law, which is based at the Faculty of Law in the University of Oxford, and the George Washington University Bonavero Institute Summer School in International Human Rights Law, which takes place each year at the same time as the summer residential in the Masters in International Human Rights Law program. It's very fitting that this event is taking place at this time and here in Oxford, because Christof was a long-time faculty member of the human rights law programs here in Oxford, and he also served as an inaugural member of the Advisory Council of the Bonavero Institute from its establishment in 2017 until his untimely death. I'm going to pause now and turn to Professor Frans Viljoen and ask him to share with us some of his thoughts about Christof. Frans.
Thank you very much, Kate. And I must say, I must speak and say on behalf of the Center for Human Rights and certainly on my own behalf, we are delighted to be joining with you in organizing and hosting this event with the Bonavero Institute and also with the Faculty of Law here. So thanks to everyone, Naz, Shreya, Laura, and everyone involved, including Bashak. Reminding us that this lecture series really serves to remind us of Christof, in the first place, the person. For me, certainly an endlessly energetic, innovative, and resourceful colleague, someone who was an inspiring teacher to very many students, and to me and many others also a supportive and provocative mentor, and to so many a very generous friend. But the lecture also serves, as was indicated, to honor and to draw from his enduring legacy and his thinking and activism in respect of international human rights law. As Kate observed, he was influential within the United Nations as Special Rapporteur and on the Human Rights Committee in particular. But in terms of thematic areas in which he made a contribution, they really span a range of concerns. He took delight in clarifying important aspects of the right to protest. He was instrumental in really grappling deeply with the impact that international human rights law has at the domestic level. He made it his business to bring and rekindle interest to the fulcrum of all rights, the right to life. And certainly he was one of the first to spell out the human rights implications of the use of autonomous weapons. In fact, earlier today, serendipitously, with a class that I was teaching, we were making reference to one of Christof's seminal works in a theme that relates to the relationship between international and national law. At the global level, I think he is also well known in Africa and more broadly for the founding father, the initiator of two very important moot court competitions that have been established now. The Nelson Mandela Human Rights Moot Court competition, that is a global competition now for 17 years, and the African Human Rights Moot Court competition, now running for 34 years, has been also renamed as the Christof Heyns African Human Rights Moot Court competition. But as Kate also indicated, it was not only at the global. Christof always made it important to locate and to bring the global back to the global back to the local dimension. He was certainly very invested in Pretoria as a space in which he found himself growing from into all these dimensions. First as the director, very influential in also extending the scope of the work of the Center for Human Rights very much into the African continent. Then as the Dean of the Faculty of Law, he also brought the global dimension to the work of the Faculty of Law very much to the forefront. And then also as the founding director of the Institute for International and Comparative Law in Africa, also located at the university. But today's lecture, we should also note, is the third in the series of lectures in his memory. I note that the first two, which took place in Pretoria at the center, focused on his relevance more to the African, Southern Africa region and South Africa specifically. In one of the series of lectures, the highlighting of the issue was on the death penalty, and that is an issue that clearly was also very close to Christof's heart. And in that context, we looked at the emerging abolition of the death penalty in Zimbabwe. Imagining how Christof would also want these memorial events to look like, it was important that no kind of one person would present a keynote address, but these would always be dialogic three-person panels. So all of these events had taken the same format. Previous panelists, just also to give a sense of the reach and influence of Christof, included the Chief Justice of Zambia, Mumba Malila, who was a doctoral student of Christof's, the Minister of Justice of Namibia, Yvonne Dausap, who was one of the master students he taught, and also a close colleague, Justice Albie Sachs. The idea of relocating, if you like, this third lecture to Oxford was really to explore the international dimensions of his work more fully, the work within the United Nations, and then also the decades-long involvement in the teaching in the master's program here at Oxford. I really extend my warm thanks to the members of the panel who are here with us today, who will make their contributions. Some of you, I know, may not know Christof so well, and there's not really an opportunity to fully engage with all his dimensions, but I could note that sometime after his sad and untimely passing, we brought together a volume of essays and reflections entitled A Life Interrupted, and that is being available online. It's available online. It's published by Pretoria University Law Press, which, by the way, is another one of Christof's brainchildren. The idea of a press that brings forward African-generated scholarship and publishing open access works. That was very much Christof's idea. So through Pulp, we have published this. So anyone maybe who wants to know more about Christof, and anyone of us who wants to reflect further, I commend you to maybe look at the pages of that publication. But to just conclude and say once again, thanks to everyone here, the family, the friends, Adam and Fiarika, and many others who have been working with Christof. It's great and wonderful to have you here. And I think what we're doing today here is really not just to remember Christof, to celebrate his work, but in a sense also to co-constitute in a constructive way the ongoing legacies of his life and his work. So thank you so much for the opportunity again, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Frans. Now I'm going to turn to you, Ferica, to say a few words. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. With a special mention to our speakers tonight, Professor Nazila Gania, Professor Dino Kritsiotis, Professor Yuval Shani, and also the moderator of this event, Professor Kate O'Regan, former judge of the Constitutional Court in South Africa and now this director at the Bonavero Institute at Oxford. I'm really honored and humbled to be part of this memorial lecture, and I did not expect to say anything today, but I'm grateful now for the opportunity to share a few words. A special word of thanks and appreciation goes to the Bonavero Institute and to Professor Frans Viljoen from the Center of Human Rights at the University of Pretoria who also teaches in the master's program. Professor Viljoen was instrumental in organizing this event, together with Naz and Shreya Atri, also at the master's program here at Oxford. The Centre for Human Rights made it possible for my son Adam to make a video and to travel. My thanks also goes to Ms. Laura Tomlinson and her colleagues for the arrangements for myself and my sister-in-law's visit to Oxford. I would also really like to express my sincere gratitude to Prof. Susan Karamanian for support to meet the current faculty socially. I'm delighted to see a few familiar faces and names around here, colleagues and former students of Christof. It's really a privilege to be in your virtual company. So, to reflect a bit, 10 years ago, in July 2015, Christof and I celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary in Oxford. It was a joyful occasion, a dinner with a few old friends, a few new friends, and some colleagues. It saddens me deeply to reflect on all that he has missed since that dreadful day in March 2021, and on how much he would have cherished the chance to still be teaching and learning alongside all of you. More than 4 years have passed since his death, and yet there are many days when I miss him intensely, not only in the weight of big decisions, but also in the small, everyday things. I miss Christof's unconventional and creative way of solving problems. There are many stories. Just to mention one or two. I remember one day when my car broke down right in front of a house in Pretoria after I dropped something off. For once, I thought, no need to trouble anyone in the house. Christof is in the country. I'll call him. He arrived and walked around the car, inspected it, and realized he couldn't fix it. On the spot, at least. Then he said, you know, we are both very hungry right now. Let's leave your car here and go have lunch in mine. That's what we did. We solved the most important problem first, so we had energy for the obvious one. There are many memories from his time with the master's program. One day in Oxford, I think it was maybe perhaps 2016 or 2017, Christof and I think it was Dapu Akande had organized an expert meeting in a building around here. It started very early and he had to get up just before sunset. But he didn't want to wake me, and he took a tablet in the dark. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a sleeping pill instead of his blood pressure medication. So it was a long day, and he told Dapu to kick him under the table if he started to nod off. Well, we laughed about that for years. He also loved the informal events, sometimes bringing out his guitar to play, including once at Naz's house, where she baked us a cake to mark yet another anniversary. These gestures, these friendships, enriched our lives. Thank you. I hear that in the video that you will see shortly, there will be a clip of Christof singing Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. And those were staff and committee members from the UN Human Rights Committee they took part in this clip during the COVID lockdowns. To make this video was quite unconventional as well. It was Christof's idea, a wild one as usual. He wanted to unify the committee through something completely unrelated to their daily work. And he wanted to incorporate music, his other passion. It was a moment of levity and solidarity during a deeply isolating time. Christof's life, work and legacy continue to ripple outward. I believe his impact lives in the people who crossed paths with him. Throughout our 35 years of marriage, I shared him with the International Human Rights Committee. And even now, in these past 4 years, I continue to feel the effect of that world in my own life. My life was enriched and influenced in a big way. I share with you the loss and the great void he has left. He is missed not only in our family as a son, a brother, a father, a grandfather, but also by many of you as a mentor, a soundboard, a friend, a colleague. He is missed in the corridors of the UN, in the buildings on the Pretoria campus, and here in Oxford, especially in the many projects he helped initiate and which still continue. It was often said, as Franz also mentioned, that Christof believed all the world's problems could be solved if we just introduced human rights moot court competitions into schools and universities. That way, students would learn to argue both sides, develop critical thinking, and then go out and make a difference in their communities. In a world as divided as ours today, I still believe that teaching young people to acknowledge each other's needs and to understand opposing views remains one of the most powerful forms of education. I was privileged to be invited to attend the final round of the 17th Nelson Mandela Human Rights Moot Court competition in Geneva a week ago. To move this event, organized by the Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria, to the UN headquarters in Geneva was a dream Christof realized about 14 years ago. And also to secure the name of human rights of Nelson Mandela to be associated with this competition. So finally, I bring greetings and warm wishes from Christof's mother in South Africa, who is 94 and still in relatively good health. I want to thank my son Adam, who made this special video about Christof, and my oldest daughter Wilhelmine for the music she composed that was used as a soundtrack. There are also greetings from my other daughter Renee, my son-in-law Arne, from Christof's two brothers, and from close family and friends in South Africa. Christof's pride and joy in his last year was our first grandchild, Isaac Rust, who is now 5. And I'm also happy to share that our second grandson, little Christof Rust, spelled with a K though, was born on 21st of March 2023. And that falls exactly on Human Rights Day in South Africa. I thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Federica, for all those words. And it's been really moving and wonderful to have you and the family here. And we're really grateful to you for making the time to come all the way here. Adam, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to share a small video about my father, Christof. It's not a full account about his work and legacy. There's not time for that. Instead, it's something a bit more personal, a glimpse into who he was and who he was to us. And maybe it's also a way of staying in conversation with a man we all still very much miss. After my dad died, I had to go through his inbox. You see, there's a lot of admin to settle in the state. And I noticed a few things. How many emails he sent every day. How he sometimes liked to type in all lowercase. And how he would often sign off with just TX, CH. Thanks, Christof. So some of it was admin, but 2 emails just stuck with me. These were the emails sent after he passed. People reaching out to someone they knew wouldn't reply. Maybe this video is mine. There's something about using your hands to make sense of things. When I was 2, my dad filmed me trying to fit puzzle pieces together. Now I'm the one holding the camera, trying to piece him together, photo by photo, frame by frame.
My dad started rowing during his military service. He didn't believe in the system, so rowing became his way out. Tennis meant building a court. Boxing meant they'd find you a ring. But rowing meant leaving the base. Even the apartheid army couldn't build a river. So he picked up a paddle and made the most of a bad situation. Looking at these photos from his 20s, I can't help but wonder if I inherited that hunger for adventure. He traveled widely, often off the beaten track. He was always with his guitar. I brought my camera. Different tools, same instinct. A way to seek meaning, to hold on to it, and to share it with others. In time, he found someone extraordinary, beautiful, artistic, honest, and true. Together, they began to paddle, sometimes in rhythm, sometimes against the current, but they kept going. Their marriage lasted over 3 decades. And from it, we arrived. 3 kids, a full house. It was the beginning of everything we knew.
Waar is die baba, seun? Wys vir pappa waar is die baba?
He was a scholar. Yale, Wits, Pretoria, a Fulbright, a Humboldt, Harvard Fellow. He taught at Oxford, UP, and beyond. He co-founded institutions, built curriculums, mentored deeply. But more than that, he listened. He really listened. And he had a way of finding the middle ground, even when it felt out of reach.
Some of Africa's leading judges were invited to Harare to hear students arguing the case for human rights.
Before the hearings begin, let's talk to the principal mover behind the event, Professor Christof Heyns.
Sir Edmund Hillary said that he had to climb Mount Everest because it was there. I think we felt that we had to do this because it was not there, because something like this never existed before. Of course, some people say we were doing it because we were not all there and that it wouldn't be possible to do something like that. But we were very pleasantly surprised by the responses we got from different universities.
When his father died, he was about 36. the same age I am now. I just remember we were listening to Pink Floyd on repeat.
Die nuustoneel is vandag oorheers deur die sluipmoord op 'n voormalige moderator van die Nederduits.
His father, Johan Heyns, stood up against apartheid from the pulpit. Mine, Christof, stood up against injustice in universities and in the UN halls. Different cloth, same courage.
I'm Christof Heyns. I'm Dean of the Faculty of Law of the University of Pretoria and a Professor of Human Rights Law. Used to be the Director of the Centre for Human Rights at the same university, and I'll be teaching on the African regional human rights system.
And we understand as well that the aeroplane of Christof Heyns, United Nations Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial, summary or arbitrary executions, has just landed.
The United Nations investigation has found gross human rights abuses in Burundi and has asked for an urgent investigation. Let's speak to Christof Heyns, who is one of the contributors of the report. He joins me live from Johannesburg. Christof, many thanks for joining us today.
Yes, so the investigation took place in the first half of this year. We're just presenting our report now.
In the case of Saudi Arabia, the method of execution as well are issues of great concern. The public executions, hanging of people in public squares and so forth. In addition to everything else that is wrong, that part of the method in which it's done, I think is something which on its own raises grave concerns about dignity and cruel, inhuman treatment. The report deals with the issue of demonstrations and the use of force during demonstrations by the police.
Well, I think the starting point is the mandate is about protection of the right to life, and I think in many ways the use of drones challenge this.
My focus is on the right to life, ways to protect the right to life, and also if there are potential violations, to ensure that there's accountability.
He never made much of his titles. He cared about the work. He believed in showing up, listening, and bearing witness.
I report once a year to the General Assembly. Previous years I've had reports on things such as drones and also report to the Human Rights Council on autonomous weapons and safety of journalists and those sort of things.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for a very constructive discussion. I have a number of issues that I want to raise and respond to, and certainly if I do not address all of it here, then I'm open to do so afterwards and in the course of the year.
I now invite the Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial, summary or arbitrary executions, Mr. Christof Heyns, to report to the committee. Mr. Heyns, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. In this report to the 70th General Assembly, I've addressed two subject areas. Firstly, the role of forensic science in the protection of the right to life and investigations in general. And secondly,
It gives one a sense of what could be, of what we in this region can also reach. It also gives one close contact with students, with their bright-eyed idealism. So in that sense, it does convey a sense of optimism, not of what we were and what we are at the moment, but of what we could be.
Years later, just a few months before he passed, I filmed him playing a Pink Floyd song. It was part of this video for the Human Rights Committee. He looked straight into my camera and he sang.
How I wish you were here. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, year after year, running over the same old ground. What have we found? The same old fears. Wish you were here.
Jy speel vast iets, Salomien?
Nee, kan nie.
Hoorie, was baie lekker om te chat en ek het sommer net gedink om hierdie gedagte te deel. Ek dink nie ek gaan dit nou baie goed formulate nie, maar ja, ek dink jy sal die basiese idee daar agter vang en mee kan relate. Soos wat ons gesê het, jy weet soos wat 'n ouer, jy weet hulle kind liefhet in 'n tyd wat hulle dit glad nie so goed besef nie. Soos met Isak en Christof nou, of soos met ons, met jy weet pappa en mamma in daai tyd, toe ons nou nog klein was en in die huis was, en you know, they made it count in daai tyd. So dink ek, as 'n ouer, ja, jy weet, obviously later besef jy nou die waarde van jou ouers, en dan as hulle nou nog lewendig is, dan het mens nou nog die geleentheid om vir hulle dit te wys, jy weet dat jy dit appreciate, maar as hulle vroeg doodgaan of vroeg wegval, dan is dit amper asof mens hulle ook liefhet in 'n tyd wat hulle nie cognizant is daarvan nie, soos wat jy was toe jy klein was. So dit is amper hierdie liefde in die doodtyd, jy weet, wat weer gereciprocate word. Nie dat 'n kind nou aanvanklik geen idee daarvan nie, soos wat jy nou geen idee daarvan het as jy nou dood is nie. Maar who knows, jy weet, en tog is dit 'n liefde wat bestaan en wat soos wat jy ook nou met die kameras deel, eers het pappa ons afgeneem as kinders en nou, jy weet, vat jy weer footage van hom, al is hy nie bewus daarvan nie. So ek het maar net gedink om daai parallel te probeer verwoord, wat my gesprek ons aan laat dink het.
He won't read this, but I'm still writing it. For him, for us, for the boys who carry his name and carry him forward.
Wat is jou naam? Christof?
There's some things that stay unanswered. And maybe that's okay. Not everything needs a reply. Just a trace, a name passed down, a song, a memory.
Beter opgelet, het die kolle daai dag al reeds rooi gegloei.
I'd also like to thank again Frans Viljoen, Adam Heyns and Verika Heyns for their wonderful and moving reflections of Christof and his life. And to close, I think, by reminding all of us that the protection of human rights is something that everybody can work at in their own ways and in their own lives. And we need to hold on to that vision going forward. It is a difficult time, but it's a time in which conversation with one another, being able to talk about these difficult challenges, makes it more likely that we will find a way forward. So thank you to all of you who've been here. It's been wonderful to have people both from the University of Pretoria and across South Africa, and indeed across the world, as well as many of our students and colleagues here in Oxford. And for the moment, I wish you all good evening.